Hi everyone! Last week you looked at how to calculate the slope of a graph and from 2 points. This week we're going to be graphing equations from a form that's called Slope Intercept Form. The reason it's called Slope Intercept Form is because we can see the slope and the intercept in the equation. Any equation in the form y equals mx plus b will create a line when graphed where m is the slope of the line and b is the y-intercept. It says here the line will go through 0b. Remember that if the x value is 0, then that point is on the y-axis. So b is our y-intercept. To graph y equals mx plus b, we're going to follow these 2 steps. First, you're going to plot the y-intercept, the point 0, b. And second, you're going to start from that point to use the slope to find more points. Keep in mind that m and b will be given to you as numbers, and y and x will stay y and x. We can see that in the 2 equations coming up. Let's get to some examples. Example 1, graph y equals 2x plus 1. So sometimes it's helpful to write y equals mx plus b above or below your equation so we can see how the numbers line up and which one is m and which one is b. So it's easier to see now that 2 is my m. Remember, m is the slope, so I'm going to put slope is 2. And b is 1, so that's my y-intercept. So that means I'm going to plot 0, 1 as my first step, then use my slope to move. Remember that a slope of 2 is the same as 2 over 1. So 2 would be my rise, and 1 would be my run. So let's first plot the y-intercept, 0, 1. And then I'm going to use my slope, 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and plot a new point. I'm going to repeat that pattern, up 2 over 1, plot a point, up 2 over 1, plot a point. And I can also repeat that pattern going backwards. So I can go down from my y-intercept, I can go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1 to get some points in the other direction. Finally, I'm going to connect these points with a straight line and add arrows at the end. Example 2, graph y equals 3x plus 2. So my first step is to plot the y-intercept, which is my 2, so 0, 2. Then my second step is to use the slope to move. My slope is 3. Since that's a whole number, I'm going to put it over 1, so I can see my rise is 3, my run is 1. So that's up 3, right 1 to get to my next point. I'm going to copy this pattern in both directions and then connect with a straight line and add arrows on both sides. And I've graphed my line. Example 3 wants us to graph y equals 5/3 x minus 1. My first step is to find my y-intercept. That's -1. Make sure you take the sign, that negative sign in front with it. So I'm going to plot 0, -1 first. Step 2, I'm going to copy down the slope, which is 5/3. It's already a fraction, so I can easily see the rise over the run. 5 is my rise. I'm going to go up 5. My run means go right 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. And repeat the pattern in both directions. It's important to note that the purple lines I drew were just to help me get my slope correct. Those purple lines are not part of the actual line that I'm creating. In fact, I'm going to go back and erase those so we're not confused. Example 4, graph y equals 1/2 x plus 4. Here's my m, here's my b. So my first step is to plot my y-intercept, my b, which is 4. So 0, 4. My slope is 1/2. So my rise is 1, my run is 2 to the right, up 1, over 2. Repeat the pattern. And connect your points into a straight line. Don't forget your arrows at the end. Okay, last example, example 5, we're going to look at what happens when we have a negative slope. So notice that right after the equal sign, I have a negative symbol in front of my slope. So my m is negative 1/2, my slope. My b is positive 4. So let's write them in the steps. I'm first going to plot 0, 4, and then second, I'm going to use the slope negative 1/2 to move. Here's 0, 4, my y-intercept. Now for my slope of negative 1/2, I'm going to apply that negative sign to the top number. So I'm going to rewrite this as negative 1 over 2. I'll always put the negative sign on the top number just to make it easier to remember. Negative 1 on top means I'm really going down 1 instead of up 1. On the bottom, I still have just a positive 2, so I'm still moving right 2. So my rise is actually a drop of 1, and my run is right 2. Down 1, right 2. That's how I get to my next point. And then I'm going to repeat that pattern in both directions. And connect. Notice that because I had a negative slope, my line is going down when I look at it from left to right, versus in the other examples when it was going up from left to right, because we had a positive slope. So negative slopes go down from left to right, positive slopes go up from left to right. So this video showed you how to graph lines in slope-intercept form. This is helpful because if we have other forms of lines, other equations that are in standard form, for example, you can change that into slope-intercept form so that we can graph it using the same pattern.